Welcome to The Preacher's Wife, a show that will showcase the lives of prominent women that stand behind powerful men of God. Not only will we go into their lives at church, but we will go into their personal and social lives and see that the wives of pastors yesterday are no longer the women of the 21st century. Hello and welcome to The Preacher's Wife. I am so excited about our show today. I have with me Reverend Raquel Moore. She said it's okay for me just to call her Raquel because she was Raquel before she was anything else, which already lets me know that I'm getting ready to talk to a woman of God who is no longer like the women of the old, but she is definitely a 21st century pastor's wife. Welcome, Raquel.
Hi, Stephanie.
How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Yourself?
I think it's wonderful and I think it's fascinating when I get an opportunity to talk to all of the different women of God who stand, behind these powerful men. I have a saying that goes, do you want to talk to the man in charge or the woman who knows what's going on? And so I feel like you're probably the woman that really knows what's going on. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with us today. I'll let you tell, first of all, I want to talk about you. I'll let you tell you the church and your family and everything before we get going. What church you're from, that you and your husband pastor.
We pastor New Birth Community Church. It's located in Austell, Georgia.
Great. How long have you been at that location?
We've been at that location for 2 years.
Okay.
But we've been in ministry under that same name for 10.
Wow, wow. Have you been in Georgia all of your life?
I am
Georgianite?
a native Hoosier. I'm from Indiana.
Okay,
But I've been in Georgia for 27 years.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So one of the questions that I just want to ask you out of the gate is, being a pastor's wife, do you think that that is a calling? Or is it just you meet a man just like normal people meet and fall in love, and he just so happened to be a pastor?
I think that it is a call.
Okay.
Before I ever met my husband, that I was called to do the work in what I'm going to call the priesthood. Okay. It was inevitable, even if I elected to take a different path. God's path for me is what I'm doing now.
We thank you for health, mental sanity, quality relationships.
It was a conscious decision. I knew that when my husband met me, I was in graduate school and I had a career path. I also loved him very much and I wanted children. I also wanted the domestic aspects of just a relationship. Many times I would have to see there first because my husband was very busy building his ministerial career and at that time working with his father, who was a bishop in another organization. So I would always hold my husband up before my children as dad, the provisionary, the keeper of this house, the ruler of this home, and I'm fielding certain aspects of your care until dad gets home. And when he gets home, he's the priest of this house. But I had to make a conscious decision about how I was going to juggle my career. One of the things I appreciate is my husband has never stood in the way of me being a professional career woman, and he understands and values and support what I do.
So were there times where did you ever feel like the ministry was number one? And,
the other woman?
The other woman?
Yes, I don't know of any woman, if she's honest, that says, look, am I first or is this first? That's a crucial conversation. We must talk about that as a couple. So there are times when the ministry, because it is a 24/7 occupation, requires time and attention. It never stops. And if you're not careful and make healthy choices for yourself, it can be physically and spiritually exhausting, to the point where a woman standing beside her husband could lose her soul. But that's when you decide, we're going to spend time together, we're going to departmentalize and debrief about the load of the work and not faint and fold, because we're called into this together as shepherds to people. And given my background, people management, people business, I'm a social scientist myself, that's what my call is. And that's what my husband's call is, so we complement each other.
If you could, and I'm sure you probably have had more than one, but if you can just think of one thing that has been the most challenging in being a pastor's wife.
I think the deception is the profile of the pastor's wife is that must be concealed, or there's a shame base to saying, I'm hurting today, or I'm not blowing bubbles. You don't see any effervescence today, but I'm not allowed to show you that because I'm in the pulpit or I'm on the front row. And I think that has held many women back from complete healing and from partnership in ministry. I think it has held sometimes their husbands back because they are so busy trying to conceal what is true and what needs to be worked on for improvement. That's just the phenomena of just being human.
That's the realness of it.
That's the reality.
People think that, you walk around under the anointing 24/7.
Oh my God.
You're
Oh my God.
you're exempt. No, it's because of the anointing that what people don't understand is that it's the anointing that keep you under attack.
Yes.
And
I
so
have the same emotions as you do. I can vacillate between anger and happiness and sadness and despair. I'm not exempt from that.
Exactly. We're living in the times of CNN and video phones, and nothing is sacred anymore. And even now, we can turn on the news at any moment, and we see a huge, prominent bishop or pastor, life on CNN, and how that, the first thing I always think about is the wife. Mm-hmm. And whether it's the truth, whether it's not, just to have your lives invaded like that. And I just wanted to ask you that if you had a friend, a pastor's wife, that was a friend or something that has gone through, what would be your advice to her?
Well, one thing that stands out, if this is a woman who has been very intense in her prayer life, she can separate out truth from fiction. After all, she's living with the man. She knows him best. She knows him better than his mother many times. And these types of controversies and opinions and perceptions can be distortions of the truth. They may have reality, truth, but no one knows better than that woman, because you can't really interfere with pillow talk. At the end of the day, someone may have their opinion, but the unconditional love that you may have for that man, that woman in ministry is not deterred. And it's not the type of perspective where you would say, I can't forgive. I personally take my marriage commitment very seriously. And at no time in my love and my covering of my husband am I going to expose him and put him on a platter. I'm not going to lower his image. And that's not just for his sake, but it's for the family's sake. And when I talk about the family, I'm not talking about the nuclear family we created. I'm talking about the extended family, because oftentimes the children are the parishioners. And it's important to consider all of that, because you're not trying to take something to ruin. You are actually trying to do what God does, and that's called restoration, rebuilding, putting things, quote unquote, in order, and preparing people to go to heaven. I mean, that's
right.
What you're supposed to be doing.
At the end of the day.
One of the things I think that interferes with the ability of the church and the world is the times in which we live, which we shared a little bit about that, and the moral decay, the moral ruin of this country. Not to make mention of communication. It's a positive, it could be a negative.
That's right.
And in everything, I think there is truth, but then there's the disillusionment of the truth. And only a woman who has been in the work, susceptible, vulnerable to the work, would know what position she needs to be in at the time of a crisis. I don't think crises are eternal. I think they come to pass. And I think people heal over certain things, and they are restored in certain areas, and they have opportunity to rebuild. If that wasn't the case, and if it was that serious, I don't think that none of us would survive it. I don't think Christ should have died if it's that serious. And I just think it's something that you adapt to, and you continue the journey, and you stay very close to God. It's very important for you to see His face, know what His purpose is for your life, and not be consumed by all the mayhem and the chaos. That just means you have to be in sound mind with your eyes focused on Christ, not on circumstances, but on Christ.
Who does a woman like yourself with your husband being the pastor, when you have to talk, when you have those things that, you mentioned when we started that you were Raquel before you were anybody. Well, I always say we're women before we are wives, before we're
Absolutely.
mothers, and sometimes we have to deal with stuff as just women. And when you just want to be that woman, who is that person that you can talk to?
I often talk to my husband, but then I have other women, other sisters. And these are people who are churched
Okay.
and not in the church,
Okay.
professionally.
That's right.
And so I go in those peer pockets to get the support I need because all of them have a place in my life. I don't think that you can say, well, I'm a pastor's wife and I can only have church friends. Mm-hmm. That to me is ludicrous because there are so many things that you are putting barriers to you advancing and understanding people. So you have to have a variety of people.
Do you think that people act different towards you when they find out that you're a pastor's wife and you're in the ministry? Is it like they have that expectation of you not being a regular person?
There's spoken expectations and then not spoken expectations. So one of the things I do when I meet anyone is I try to make certain that they feel very comfortable with me. Like I said, I had a first name before I had a title. I'm a woman just like you. I have gone through stages of development just like you. I happen to be the pastor's wife. I'm a member just like you. And I have a purpose just like you do. If there's a circumstance where something has happened in my life or I've had some kind of catastrophic event, then I'm not shame-based. I'm going to tell you about that because if I don't talk to you about that, how else will you get out of that or heal from that? So one of the things I do, I make sure that if I encounter a woman, she's very comfortable with me. Can we talk?
Exactly.
Can we laugh about this? This is serious, but I'm, full belly laughter here. Because, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. And you can cry, tear ducts are for crying, but I don't want you to stay there. We need to talk about this. And so I always try to make sure that there is that sisterhood and that bond. And anything that you believe about me, I'll always try to dispel it at the onset of that relationship. Because I need to know who you are. I need to really see you. And you really need to see me because we're interdependent. And I think that has held many women back from complete healing and from partnership in ministry. I think it has held sometimes their husbands back because they are so busy trying to conceal what is true and what needs to be worked on for improvement. That's a disaster to me.
Wow. It was my pleasure.
My pleasure, too.
Speaking with you today, and I just wish you all the best for your ministry and for
thank
your
you.
personal
Thank you.
endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you. And join us next week for The Pastor's Wife.